It's time for Mr.
Fundamental.
Presented by no one.
The Minnesota Timberwolves had a pretty successful season last year. They made the playoffs for the first time since 2018 and pushed the second seed Grizzlies to 6 games. It's obvious the Wolves will want to take another step next year, so they made a big splash by betting on Rudy Gobert. There are some mixed opinions about the trade, but we're going to focus on how he fits on the court, so let's get into it. We'll start up with the offense first. While Gobert is quite limited as a scorer, he is one of the more efficient rollmans in the league. Once he gets the ball around the restricted area, it's 2 easy points. Vertical spacing is one reason why he's so effective, and is a welcome addition to the Wolves' offense. With a 9'9" standing reach, he's a huge lob threat, and defenses will have a hard time stopping it. Last year, their most used screener was Cat, Vanderbilt, and Reed. While all of them would throw down some occasional dunks, Cat and Reed usually pops after the screen to create space in the paint as part of their 5-out offense. In fact, the Wolves only attempted 38 alley-oops, while Gobert nearly triples that number on his own. Gobert's inability to space the floor means he'll roll 10 out of 10 times, and the Wolves ball handler will now have a lob target. When factoring Gobert's efficiency around the rim and his vertical spacing, it's easy to see why he generates the most screen assists in the league. After the screen, Gobert rolls hard to the rim and gets past his man who is focused on the ball. When Mitchell gets deeper in the paint, you can see Horford continue to drop and waiting to help. Gobert's vertical spacing and rebounding ability causes Horford to turn his head, allowing Mitchell some daylight for the finger roll and the and one. D'Lo and Ant's willingness to pull from deep is a great complement to these screens. While their percentages leave a lot to be desired, modern defenses will still go over the screen. In this case, Ant will have all this runway to create iconic posters. D'Lo would lean towards more finesse and navigate towards open space. He's comfortable in the mid-range and confident in his floaters, or he could find Gobert for the finish. Worst case scenario, the help defender forces a miss, but leaves one of the top offensive rebounders to clean up the mess. Gobert's fit with Cat is less clear-cut, but the good news is that Cat has essentially played as the power forward next to a non-shooter in Vanderbilt. Slotting in Gobert here as the roller, Cat has the perimeter game to knock down the 3 or get to the rim. But what makes Cat a great offensive player is his inside-out game, and just being able to do a bit of everything. Playing next to Gobert means Cat will get less rolling opportunities and roam along the perimeter more often. In his limited opportunities as a roller, Gobert will likely station at the dunker spot. It's not ideal to run pick and rolls with a non-shooter in the dunker spot, but it's possible to field an above-average offense if done correctly. Short rolls are going to be Cat's best friend, as he's going to have a harder time rolling all the way to the rim. Now he'll either finish in the mid-range or find Gobert if the help comes. Here is one worry I have. While Gobert and Vanderbilt are non-threats outside the paint, Vanderbilt was quicker and a better driver with the ball. A lot of times Vanderbilt will start off close to the 3-point line. His defender would happily help off of him because he's not a threat from out there. Within 1 second, a timely cut turns him from a non-threat into the next most dangerous player and a good look at the rim. Gobert never ventures out there unless he's setting a screen or at most starts his cut from the mid-range. He's standing further out on this possession, but he's slow on the cut. Kleber can easily help, and Conley doesn't get it to Gobert because he's a non-threat with the ball that far out. Compare that to Vanderbilt on this possession. His man comfortably helps off of him, Vanderbilt times his cut, and presents himself as an option and gets the and one. Being in the dunker spot means he's closer to the action, and his defender can be in better position. On the Bogdanovic drive, there's no clear passing lane to Gobert, and his man can easily help on the drive. Gobert can make it up with his vertical spacing or set an off-ball screen, but occupying the dunker spot throughout the possession makes it easier to defend 2 players at once. The biggest problem I see with Cat playing the 4 is his offensive fouls. Last year, he led the league in offensive fouls and tied for second in the year before. Some of these could be attributed to moving screens or aggressively crashing the boards, but others include bad habits of pushing off, hooks, or kicking his leg out. Cat operated out on top a lot and feasted on slow-footed bigs who are closing out. Cat tends to use his threat as a shooter to get his defender out of position. Once he does that, he's eager to keep the advantage, but starts using his off-arm to hook onto his defender. This time, Cat's pump fakes didn't work, and his defender is in good position. He hooks onto his arm, trying his best Harden impersonation. He then fully extends his off-arm to dislodge Bizatze, leading to this offensive foul. Cat is still faring well against most bigs, but playing next to Gobert, modern day 4s are a lot more mobile and can bait Cat into more offensive fouls. You can see how Anderson is on Cat, while the center on the floor is guarding the non-shooting big. This is a matchup we'll see a lot when Cat and Gobert shares the floor. You can see Cat's off-arm is quite active, but still reasonable at this point. It's the second push with a little bit of selling that leads to the defensive foul. Even in the post, he tends to stick out his elbow to create space, and this is just an easy call. He's matched up against a smaller forward, while he shares the floor with a non-shooter. This invites a double team, and Cat has nowhere to go. He uses the elbow hook again to get around Williams, and gets called for defensive foul. A lot has been said about Cat's low release before the draft, but it hasn't stopped him from knocking down his shots. He's also added a Dirk leg to create space for his jumper, but low release has led to him kicking out more often. It's much clearer on this possession. He's got the size advantage, but he couldn't get around a quicker defender. Cat resorts to a Dirk leg, the man gets a good contest. Check out how the lower part of his leg kicks out in an attempt to create more space, but that's an offensive foul. Cat is going to face some quicker closeouts as well. Between a contested shot or getting his drive cut off by a defender, he chooses to stick his leg out. Now on the defense. Gobert is a defensive anchor, and his accolade speaks for itself. Having him on the team basically ensures the Wolves will have one of the top defenses and covers for the weaknesses of their offensive stars. Just like what the Jazz have done, the rest of the Wolves will just need to run players off the 3-point line, and Gobert will finish the rest. The Jazz have fielded a top 10 defense in all but one season, ever since Gobert became a full-time starter. Even in that one season, they're ranked above average. Defense isn't Cat's strong suit, and sliding him to the 4 will lessen his responsibilities and minimizes the impact of his mistakes. In fact, Cat could assume Vanderbilt's role of a weak side shot blocker, swooping in from an unexpected angle and get the swat. Here are the Wolves' defensive ratings over the years. Aside from last season, they had a bottom 10 defense since 2015, and even the defensive guru and Tom Thibodeau couldn't help it. Last season was a big improvement, and although acquiring Gobert shores up this long-lasting weakness, it does present a new problem. A big part of the Wolves' improved defense last year was their blitzing scheme. By bringing up their bigs higher, they're stopping dynamic offensive guards from running the offense. In this case, it's SGA. The weak side is ready to help on the roller, then everyone recovers to their man. This was on full display when playing against the Grizzlies. Morant isn't a deadly pull-up threat, but extremely dangerous as a slasher. Their blitzing schemes ensures that Morant doesn't get into the paint and force risky passes. This aggressive scheme and having point of attack defenders like Pat Bev and Vanderbilt helped the Wolves force the most turnovers and leading to more transition opportunities. By swapping both of them for Gobert, the Wolves will certainly turn to a more conservative drop coverage instead of building upon their improvements last season. This is actually a good thing when comparing the opponent's shot distribution between the Wolves' blitzing schemes and the Jazz drop coverage for Gobert. All NBA defenses want to prevent shots in the paint and beyond the arc, and that's exactly what the drop coverage with Gobert provides. The flip side of this is that the Wolves won't have much flexibility with their defensive schemes. This is what we saw with the Jazz as well. The defense was elite in the regular season, but the inability to adapt is why they couldn't get further in the playoffs. Gobert is so key to the defensive schemes, but he isn't used to guarding in space against 5-outs or punishing smaller players. Taking him off the floor means their offensive stars lose the defensive security blanket, and it's not like they still have Pat Bev or Vanderbilt as a point of attack. Cat at the 5 is already a disadvantage defensively, and it's not like the Wolves can afford to sit their 2 highest paid players that contributes to the potential success in the regular season. Unless the Wolves have something up their sleeves, the playoffs might be a hard time for them. It's safe to say Gobert's addition will improve the Wolves in the regular season. Just look at the Jazz standings over the past few years. That's why I'm not opposed to the draft compensations in the trade, although that was a lot of picks. The problem comes when they get to the playoffs, so it's interesting to see whether this trade pays off over the next few years. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time.